The big brands had many colors, but nobody knew it and nobody trusted them that the colors were for us until Rihanna came out with them. And then the big brand said, hold it, we have it too, but they were not talking to us.
All right, so with me today is Amy Hilliard, the founder and principal of Hilliard Group. She's also a former adjunct professor at Booth School of Business, University of Chicago.
Yes.
Got that right. All right.
Hey.
And also Pepper Miller, president of Hunter Miller Group. Welcome.
Yes.
So
Thank
good to
you
have
for having us.
Sure.
Yes.
So I want to just kind of dive right in. I know, so we're here at the Art and Science of Innovation in Chicago, 2024. And I know you guys have a presentation taking place later today. I just wanted to ask you, talk with you about that first, just to get some ideas, some key highlights, key points that you all are going to cover in that talk.
Okay.
So basically, we're going to help people understand how to lead with Black Insights. That's not the name of the presentation, but that's kind of the gist of it, how Black Insights can help researchers and brands reach a broader segment.
Okay.
And what was the other question?
No, just some other highlight, just some key points. 'Cause I know, so this is an important segment, obviously.
Yes, it is.
One that we don't hear or talk about very often. So I think what you all are representing is really great for our industry and so forth. So I think those key elements, those key points was really what we wanted to kind of highlight in our talk today.
So one of the most important points is to begin with why. I think Black consumers, sometimes they don't feel like they're the flavor of the month anymore. And we really are, because we are different. We're different, but not deficient. Language has become the cultural identifier when it comes to market research and it comes to brands. So if you speak a different language, then they recognize there's a different culture there. One of the questions that a couple of brands have asked me, it's a rhetorical question, is they speak English, don't they? And my response is, yes, we speak English, but are you talking to me? So one of the key takeaways that we want brands to understand is that before you get to the nuggets of this is the strategy for reaching other brands or using it for market research, is to understand, first you got to understand Black people. First you got to understand. So one of the key takeaways that I have with that long answer is to begin with why. To be a little bit more introspective, to ask yourself, what is it that we know about Black Americans? You have to begin there. To really understand us before you can see how going against the traditional standards, if you will, which is kind of what we're saying, is like we're not talking about this top-down strategy. Maybe it's more of a bottom-up or both, Amy.
Well, really, it is a strategic way of doing business.
Yes.
Because it is a way of looking at all the consumers in the opportunity, not just some of them. And as a business person and as someone who teaches business and teaches people how to grow their business strategically, you can't say that I'm not going to look at a key demographic not as a strategic asset. And that's what's been happening. Because when you look at the size of the Black consumer market and the dollars that they spend, in some categories, it's over-indexing.
Right.
And for people not to, research that, and for brand people not to look at that as an opportunity, not as an also opportunity, but as a priority opportunity, is a missed opportunity.
Yes.
And so we want to bring it to the table and say, look, don't miss the opportunity, because it's there for you and it's always been there for you. But you have to look at it as the way of doing business that you should incorporate into all of your marketing opportunities, and not just the marketing opportunities. And this is why building, one of the other key takeaways is build diverse teams to enhance both the creativity and the decision making. And it's not just in the creative way of thinking, because if you build this into your total way of doing business with the salespeople, with the marketing research people, with people in your packaging areas. You can see ways of being very innovative and build some business.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're talking about here,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Art and science and innovation.
Right.
And this
That's
is
right.
key, and that's why I think this is so important and so timely here. Now, your session is titled "Guiding Brands to Victory with Black Insights."
Yes.
Okay. How can insights about Black consumers strategically and innovatively impact business growth? Like, I don't know if there's specific examples or if we're cutting into maybe the presentation a little bit, but if there's maybe however you want to approach that.
So one of the things that we are going to talk about today, and not all of them, are these blind spots that business leaders have. There's 7 of them. There are many blind spots that business leaders have, but we're going to talk about 7 blind spots, which are also insights for engaging the Black consumer, the Black customer, the Black research participant. And one of them, the most important one, is our history. And so it's interesting how Black history is being erased today, but that is one of the most important insights. It is the most important insight for understanding us, because we have this different history, so we have a different lens in terms of how we see ourselves, how we think others perceive us, how they do perceive us as well. So we've got different history, different treatment, and then as a result of that, different beliefs and behavior. And it's the beliefs and behaviors that ladder back up to the history. And it's these beliefs and behaviors that are the insights for the connection. And that's where the innovation comes from. Like colorism, for example. I think I raised a question about that today with AI, with one of the examples that spoke about makeup with the women from Singapore.
It was the visual.
That and the facial recognition software.
That
I mean, because colorism is still a big thing. We are judged globally, not just Black Americans, but people are judged globally by their skin color. The darker you are, the less value you have. But if you look at, it's about meeting the needs, is what Amy was talking about. When you meet those needs with understanding the insights, you can expand to a larger segment, like with the makeup, cosmetics, which he didn't talk about, which was so interesting. It was our example that we're going to share today is
Fenty Beauty.
Okay.
Rihanna came to the marketplace, and I used to be president of Fashion Fair Cosmetics, which was for many, many years the only brand that Black people knew was for us, because it was created. It was created for us by the Johnson family,
the Ebony magazine.
People created it for us.
And she was the president of the...
And I was president of Fashion Fair. And so for years, that's what African Americans knew. They had colors for us. Rihanna came out in 2019 or 2019 with colors, 40 colors for people of color.
And launched it at retail.
Yes.
No one had ever done that
That's
before.
Right. No one had ever done that before. And the big brands, and we'll talk about this, the big brands had many colors, but nobody knew it and nobody trusted them that the colors were for us until Rihanna came out with them. And then the big brand said, hold it, we have it too. But they were not talking to us. And Rihanna came out and said, you're missing an opportunity.
That is really
completely revolutionized the makeup industry and the beauty industry. So now when you go into an Ulta Beauty, you will see Tarte and Anastasia, I can't think of it.
You'll see Clinique, you'll see Revlon, you'll see Maybelline.
40 brands.
All of them with colors.
Because of Rihanna. So that's an example of how using Black insights. Another example we're going to talk about today is Jason Reynolds. He writes stories about Black children, but he writes them for all children. But his storytelling is about, the cultural insights that happen with these Black kids. 6 million books. I can't tell you how many awards this guy has won, leading with Black insights. When you get it right with Black people and understand who we are, you get it right with mainstream. It's not a bottom up, bottom down strategy. It's a top up. It's about learning from here. And that's one of the things that the research industry is missing too. I mean, we need, in terms of how you do research with Black people and other people, you have to think about their culture. Is this question relevant that we're asking? Is it in the right order? Is it the language that they use, and not necessarily Ebonics for us,
Right.
but is it the right language, or is it the right example? Like one example is did a big study, quant study for a financial institution, and they talked about how Black people manage their money. And it was just a little thing that they left off, but they had, saving, investing, and spending, of course. But what they didn't have was tithing. That is so huge for us because religion, everything ladders back up to history, has been a force for us for maintaining our resilience and sustainability here is our religion. And tithing then is just absolutely huge for Black people. And how huge it is, it's something they needed to explore, because sometimes we will tithe more than we will save. And so having a finance company not tell them what to do, but helping them understand that saving is as an
And acknowledge
important
it.
and acknowledging it,
Acknowledge it.
exactly.
And not
so
ignore
those
it.
are
That is
just
so
some
interesting.
insights that these companies don't know that
That is super
we
interesting.
have.
I want to go back to something you said
Yes.
earlier, just really briefly, and then and any final thoughts you have. So, with regards to the makeup line and Rihanna specifically, do you believe then that it was her popularity that was able to sort of push that movement through, or was it already happening in the background at these other companies? They didn't have the right insights people working on this. They weren't asking for those, for Black insights. Like, where was the misstep, or was it more that Rihanna and her popularity, her name was able to kind of finally break that barrier, push it
Oh,
through?
I think she broke it through. She
Okay.
broke it through unapologetically.
Okay.
And I think that was the difference. She unapologetically said, we need these colors and I have them for you. She wasn't trying to say, oh, we have them in the back or we have them just, oh, by the way.
Yeah.
She said, she came out and said, we need these colors because we are these colors.
And people have been talking about the colors all the time because I've been many times in these boardrooms making suggestions to brands about here's a huge need that needs to be fulfilled, and nobody did anything about it.
Wow.
But what too was interesting, not only Rihanna's celebrity, is that she launched it at retail. I can't tell you how huge that was.
Right.
And she absolutely, man, you gotta launch this at retail. She did it at Sephora. And they made it work with the shelf space, and everybody is doing it now. Little brands, big brands,
Yeah.
everyone is doing that. So I do think it was definitely her celebrity, but it was like launching it at retail. We've had these conversations trying to, Amy, come on, we've been trying to
I know.
convince
Listen,
these people
listen.
to do it.
The thing about it is, she could have, and she did also launch online. She did a dual distribution strategy. She had the website, but she also did it at retail because she couldn't do it at retail everywhere. So she chose Sephora as her initial retail partner. But then when she started doing so well at Sephora, she then went to Ulta. But doing it at retail, like Pepper said, was definitely groundbreaking because as a former retailer myself, though you don't get retail space for nothing.
Right.
Okay.
It costs-
They don't-
real
it's all it
estate.
costs.
That's real
Yeah, for
estate.
sure.
That's
Exactly.
real estate, and they don't give it to you that way. She demanded it. She said, if you want to carry Fenty, you have to carry all 40 shades. You can't cherry pick, or I won't
Pick
go
a
in your
few,
store.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so she said, if you want me, you got to take all of me. And that demand was, she had the credibility to say that.
Absolutely.
And they said, okay, we want you, so we'll take all of you.
Okay.
And when she did that, I was at Fashion Fair when that happened, and we were like, oh boy,
I know.
here comes Rihanna.
Yeah.
But it was oh boy, great. Because when she did that, that opened the door for
really
everybody,
did.
and that opened the door to put more spotlight on anybody who was already there, and we were
Trying to
already
do
there.
this, yeah.
So the thing about it is that Pepper's absolutely right. You can knock on the door a lot and say this is the right thing that you need to do, but when somebody comes out and shows you and just opens up everybody's eyes, then it becomes real.
And then that elevated the conversation too around darker skin.
Oh, yes.
How it too is beautiful.
Yes.
Because that's always been a closed conversation. We talk about Googling good hair, bad hair. So if you Google bad hair, you're going to get this. If you Google good hair, you're going to get your hair.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, absolutely. It's crazy. Even today, and natural hair is becoming more popular, but it's still a challenge.
So there's so many Black insights that can totally change a business. And don't assume just because Black people and the standards that society says are Black people, that we don't spend money on things that you think we might not. For example, Black folks are early adopters of technology. And people don't think that. So when you're thinking about your iPhones and your iPads and things like that, Black folks are some of the first people who will go out and get those. And people don't automatically think that. And it's not automatically marketed to them. But that's a missed opportunity. And again, when you start thinking about what this could be like, it could be huge. And then we want to go back to another piece that's important in terms of what's going on with research, because the AI piece that Pepper was talking to earlier today, and the Black consumer research for relevant AI tools, it is so important that be relevant to African Americans and Black people. Thank you. Because if it's not relevant, those data points won't be relevant across the board. And
It won't tell the story.
it won't tell the story, and it will leave out crucial points of data that can be totally detrimental to what an AI tool is supposed to do. The FDA just approved a tool to scope cancer research. Did not include Black people, and Black women have a higher propensity for breast cancer, and left us out of the data.
Exactly.
How can they do that?
What kind of decisions can be made off of that now when you've got so many holes now in the data?
And again, not having a diverse group of people at the table, or if you have a diverse group of people, they're not allowed to bring their story to the table. That's the other thing. I remember years ago, I always wanted more Black stories, Black insights to be on the table. And people would pull me to the side and ask me, are you being too sensitive if I didn't want to go along with the mainstream strategies? That the mainstream should be that. And I wasn't excluding mainstream, but I was just saying it should be this and this, not either or, because you're missing out huge opportunities. When Amy was talking about early adapters, that leads back up to the history and the treatment and the beliefs and behaviors, how important badge value is to Black people. It's an old school term. It's not that we own that characteristic or any of the other characteristics that we talk about in my work or in the work that Amy and I do. But badge value is where we confirm and create how we want to be, how we want people to perceive us. And luxury items and electronics and fancy cars and alcoholic beverages. Those are some of the things that we use, because when we step out of our dwellings in this brown skin, the stereotyping is on. A big part of the Black experience, and I believe multicultural, Asian, Latino, LGBT, Native American, is countering negative stereotypes. It's something that we do all the time. We're thinking about it all the time. Being Black, it's wonderful, but it's exhausting. It can be exhausting because we are likely to think about Blackness 90% of the time versus white people who think about whiteness 10% of the time. And so that's why understanding these and the history is so important, because all of that, why is that? It goes back to the history, how we were treated, how we were taught, how society talked about us, how they still today we are less than. So we're always trying to break out of it, break out of that.
And to that point, it's so touching because yesterday was Father's Day, and my sister wrote about one of the things that our father taught us was check yourself before you leave the house, because how you look when you're out in the street matters.
And it matters
As
not just to the
perception.
family,
Not to the family,
but to the
Oh,
whole
everyone.
community.
Community,
You
yes.
cannot embarrass
You
us.
can't.
You got the weight of everybody
That's
on your
right.
shoulder.
It matters to our family, but it matters to the community.
Yeah.
What you look like, you in the management and the perception of that you are representing.
And now that's
sure.
becoming more generational,
Right.
Because
Right,
we're old school.
No, but I tell my kids the
Amy
same
and I,
thing.
yeah, we do. We pass it down,
We
but
pass
it's
it
still
down.
kind of generational, and that's one of the blind spots is being unapologetically Black, which the younger people have adapted, caring less about what society says about them and more about I'm going to adhere to my culture. I'm going to do this my way. I'm going to wear my hair my way.
Yeah.
We have the Crown Act because of that,
That's
breaking
right.
these rules, which is legislation so that natural hair is accepted. Your natural hair and my natural hair and her natural hair is accepted in the workplace.
Sure.
But the beauty of this, from a marketing perspective and strategic insights, is just that point, that there are different ways of looking at the Black market. It's not just one segment. It's the younger segment, it's the older boomer segment that have different ways of reaching them, talking to them, engaging with them.
Sure.
And
That's
different
fantastic.
mindsets too. Yeah.
I feel like we could talk about this all
I know, we
day.
can. I know. We said we were just gonna be 8 minutes,
No,
and then
yeah,
we-
I mean,
One last
we
point
already
is
went longer than we
that this
thought.
is this for the people who are in research and the people who are in marketing. You've got to make a pivot.
Yeah.
You've got to pivot for success all the way through the process, because you can't keep doing what you're doing.
No.
You got to pivot and look at it in a different way.
Well, and I think it goes back to the point earlier, is you're only going to get part of the story.
Yes.
If you're not looking at this holistically and you're not pulling it all in, and these are
Right.
all, and it's relevant. It's super fascinating. I thank you both so
Thank
much.
you for
Thank you,
having
Amy.
us.
Thank you, Pepper.
Yes.